Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another one of our chamber forums. Um, our political process has been extremely important every year, but this year more than ever. We've got a tremendous lineup today with some of our Senate candidates. I don't know, folks, if you could put yourselves on mute, that'd be great. We will be hearing from two representatives that I'll share with you have been great friends of the chamber, great friends of mine, great friends of business. I was sharing with them that it's like having being a coach on The Voice and having your two best singers go up against each other, and you're sad because one of them's going to win and one's going to lose. But I really hope that whoever does not come out victorious will come back to public life, because both have served with extreme distinction. With us today is Peter Stewart, and I'm not going to take away from his introduction, but we're really happy to welcome him back. Today, as you all know who've been with us for many of these, we will have everybody muted, and the chat will be open and live for you all to interact with each other. I mean, the chamber is about interacting and interfacing and networking, so please use that for that. If you have a question, and we hope that you have many, please use the Q&A function, because we will not be taking questions from the chat, only the Q&A functions, and those will be floated up to Peter, who will give it to our candidates. This session is being recorded and will be available later on our website, so look for it then. Without further ado, let me introduce an extremely good friend of mine, an extremely active chamber member, Jose Bermudez, who has been in the lobbying business, in the political advocacy business for a long time. Although he looks like a baby, he's been a veteran for a long time, and we are very lucky to have him as part of our chamber team and leadership. He will serve for one more year and then step off, but I know he will not. He won't step away from the chamber. He'll continue doing the great work that he's doing, as the chamber has really, embraced our advocacy role. And we thank you, Jose, for your leadership in that. Let me turn it over to you now.
Absolutely. And for full disclosure, Alfred, as a baby, I had the same hairline. But what a great pleasure to be here amongst so many friends and discussing this very important Senate race that will shape the future of South Florida. We have two incredibly talented legislators, Representative Fernandez and Representative Rodriguez, who have done so much for our community. And now I have the pleasure to introduce Peter Stewart. By the way, Peter, both candidates have agreed to move the capital to Miami, so hopefully you'll be spending a lot more time in South Florida. But really, the voice of politics is Peter. Thank you for all you do and keeping us updated in everything that happens in Tallahassee during session and also throughout the year. Certainly makes lobbyists' lives a lot easier when we don't actually have to have so many conversations. We could just read the many publications that you publish. Peter is the president of Extensive Enterprises and also the publisher of Florida Politics, Sunburn, and also my favorite Influence magazine. So Peter, thank you so much for participating. I turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be moderating this panel and this debate. I was led to believe, I'm just looking at my notes, Jim DeFeeti said no, Michael Putney said no, and Mark Caputo is still asleep. And so that's why you all are stuck with the guy from St. Petersburg. And so I will echo the comments earlier that this is a unique debate in the sense that I think that almost everybody in the chamber and pretty much the Florida Chamber of Commerce and other chambers throughout the state would be happy and would be relieved if either one of these two representatives was to serve in the Florida legislature. And so we're going to keep this as cordial as possible. I want to ask as many questions as possible. We didn't have too many rules going into it other than I basically get to, interject where I need, but I want the focus to be on the two candidates. This is this is probably the closest race in the down ballot right now. There are two very competitive state Senate races in Florida. One is in Orlando and Seminole, and then Senate District 39. And this will really decide a lot of where the direction goes, because a Florida Senate that would be, even if the Republicans retain control, 21-19, all it would take then is one Republican to break on any vote. And so it makes it a lot more interesting chamber, especially as we head into redistricting. So going with that, I want to start off with the first question is going to be about the pandemic and COVID and the state response to that. Yesterday, the number is 5,537 Floridians tested positive for coronavirus. It was the most since August, I believe. I'd like to start off with, we'll start off with Representative Ana Maria Rodriguez. I want you to give me two things that the state government has done well to respond to the pandemic, and one thing that needs improvement. And I'm going to ask Representative Javier Fernandez to do the same thing. For that, Representative Rodriguez.
Well, Peter, I think the things that we've done right, or the things that Governor DeSantis has done right, is to give control to the local governments. As we all know, in South Florida, we were disproportionately affected by the number of cases in this area. And so by giving that control as to when businesses reopen and whatnot to Mayor Jimenez, and in our case, I think gave us a better grasp of when it was the right time to get things going again. So as a positive, giving the local control is what I would say. In terms of the negative, I would have probably mandated masks. I think mandating a mask, some people just don't have the common sense to wear one, or honestly, I think it's a matter of respect to ask people, to wear masks. So if I had been in his position, I probably would have asked people, please wear a mask. And I think the other thing we could have done better is the unemployment situation. I'm not sure if that's a question you're going to ask later, but we can talk more about that down the line. But yeah, the unemployment system, yeah. Okay.
Representative Fernandez, same question. Two things that state government has done well. One question, or one thing that it needed to improve upon.
Sure. And first, a quick thanks to the Chamber for organizing the debate, and Peter, for you for moderating this. With regard to the question, I think certainly the high watermark for Governor DeSantis was what he did to protect our elderly in nursing homes very early on with the restrictions on visits. I think that's frankly the most decisive and best action he's taken. And I also would echo the comments of my colleague on local control. Allowing for some diversity in response was very helpful, although I think there were certain minimums that should have been put in place. But I think general criticism about the response has been, I think, just a failure to acknowledge problems in a timely fashion, and also model appropriate leadership. Leadership is not just about doing things; it's about actually setting an example. I think this governor has really failed to set an example how to responsibly, act during this pandemic. Whether it's his failure to wear a mask, go to large-scale events without any social distancing, those kinds of behaviors also send a message to the public. And I think it's a marked failure of him during this crisis.
All right. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Miami-Dade schools are now open.
They are.
So I'd like to, Representative Fernandez and then Representative Rodriguez, as a parent, I think it does say something about your choices with your education. Not in anything that anything is negative. It's just I think it's important for other people to know what decisions you've made. So do you have school-age children, and what is their education status right now in the pandemic?
Yeah, my children are both 12 and 10. I got a 7th grader and a 5th grader. They are currently going to school on a hybrid basis. This week they're in school. Next week they will be out of school. We've been advised by our school that we'll be back with full-time instruction starting on November 1st. I have my concerns about what the protocols will be, so we're asking those questions right now if there is a case that breaks out at their particular school.
And Representative Rodriguez?
Yeah, so I have a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old. They were homeschooled, obviously, like all the other children, until about 3 weeks ago. My children both attend Dade County Public Schools. even though I support school choice. The parental survey that they sent us, they asked, how soon do you want your kids to go back? And I said, as soon as possible, because I think it's important for children to have the social aspect of learning, not just with other children, but I think it's in-person learning is much better than the remote learning, at least for children of kindergarten, or actually first and second grade.
So you're saying that we can have a play date, my daughter and your kids, the next time I come down to Miami?
After November 3rd, anytime.
If there is anybody from Pinellas and Pasco and Tampa Bay that likes Miami-Dade and the politicians more than me, it's Education Commissioner Richard Corcoran, who should probably just change his name to Ricardo Corcoran. He is down so often in South Florida. I'd like to ask you, this week, he and the governor basically said that no matter what happens, we will not be closing down schools, no matter what happens in terms of the pandemic, that it was wrong to close the schools at all. And Governor DeSantis actually called people who believed in that. They said that they were the flat earthers of our time. So, Representative Rodriguez, do you agree or not agree with the governor's assessment that it was wrong to close the schools in the first place?
Well, I believe it was good to close them for a short period of time, but I think not reopening them at the beginning of this school year was a problem, and I'll tell you why. I've been knocking on doors since August and into the school year up until today, and the parents who do not send their kids to school, a lot of these children are home alone. Like, the parents have to go out and make money. They have to work and pay their mortgage, put food on the table. So if you're a parent that you kind of depend on the school to, it's not a daycare, but that's where they spend the most of their day. If you can't send them to the school, then where are you going to put them? So it's created a lot of problems for families who can't afford to put them in a daycare. So I think that it is good to have the schools reopen.
Same question to you, Representative Fernandez.
Yeah, I think the governor's comment was wholly irresponsible, frankly. We need to, in any condition, respond to conditions as they evolve. I mean, that's part of leadership. It's not just having a blanket ideological approach to something that doesn't recognize changing conditions. I would tell you that I think we could have had more in-person instruction earlier for younger children. I think the science has shown that they are at the least amount of risk. But when it comes to children that are in middle school age or high school, the risk isn't just to the kids, it's that they are in a category where they can become spreaders themselves. And so I think we need to be governed by the trajectory in local communities around the positivity rate, and have instruction that's tailored to that rate. Again, the point being that we all want to get out of this as soon as possible. The better job we do in managing the contagion, the quicker our economy recovers, and the quicker we can get back to a normal life.
Okay, I'm going to switch to, we're still in COVID, but I want to talk about that unemployment system, which has been really a problem for state government overall. And I don't expect you to have all the answers. And I'm just seeing Representative Rodriguez pop in and out, so if we lose you, let me know if you don't hear the question. On the unemployment system, quick question for both of you. Are we paying the unemployed enough? I believe it's $275 a week. Representative Rodriguez, are we paying them enough? And if not, would you increase it, and by how much?
To answer your first question, I don't think we're paying them enough. I think that it needs to be increased. Now, as to how much that should be, I don't know. We have to go back to Tallahassee, look at the budget, see where we can cut to then increase that. But that's something I'm definitely open to, and it's really not, $275 a week is really not enough money. And we're lucky that the PUA money kicked in, the federal money, but if that hadn't happened, a lot of people would have been in a very tough situation.
Representative Fernandez, same question. Are we paying our unemployed enough in benefits on a weekly basis?
Well, I'm glad to hear my opponent acknowledge that there's a problem, and unfortunately she didn't vote to have us go back into special session to address it. As to the question specifically, I don't think we're paying people enough. And more problematically, if we're looking at the number of unpaid claims and what's left in the trust fund balance, my strong speculation is that we are out of money, which is probably why this governor refused $600 million of additional benefits from the federal government, which would have been a huge stimulus to our small businesses, because he recognizes, probably, is just not sharing it with the public, that we don't have the resources to pay the balance of claims that we owe today. We should have gone back into special session very early on this summer. This pandemic, for particularly our hospitality workers, more than 2 million workers across the state, is not going to go away anytime soon. We're going to need to pay them prolonged benefits so that they can survive this pandemic. That's going to require more money that we don't have in our trust fund. We do have the ability to borrow from Washington for a period of time under the first round of CARES Act. We should be talking about that publicly. We should be making decisions about that now, not waiting until after this election to finally deal with a problem we know exists today.
Let me get a little sense of the human side. I know Senator Pizzo, Senator Brandis up by me, Representative Anna Astamani. They've done extensive constituent service, connecting people who are literally unable to get into the Connect system. 30 seconds, start with you, Representative Fernandez. What did you do on a granular level to help unemployed constituents in your House district?
Sure. Went on the radio, went on TV, shared my phone number, shared my office number, fielded thousands of phone calls, referred hundreds of cases, have managed priority lists that we've sent to the DEO secretary and his chief of staff to make sure people's cases were getting addressed. That's what we spent the summer doing, beyond just helping to feed people in the normal course through Farm Share and other food drives that we've also organized. So that's what we've been up to this summer.
Same softball right to you, Representative Rodriguez. Not that one long.
Yeah, actually, we've continued doing food distributions with Feeding South Florida and Farm Share through today. Actually, we had one this morning. I do these every 2 days a week. I've been since March, hasn't stopped. And I've also been fielding a lot of questions through my legislative office, helping people navigate the arduous unemployment system. But yeah, that's what we do as leaders, as state representatives. My colleague, my opponent and myself and all of our colleagues have been doing a lot of the same, working together to try to help our community through feeding them and also helping them get their monies from the state.
All right, so nobody's asked to ask you this, but I would say you gotta be crazy to wanna go up to Tallahassee with what you all will be facing next March 2021 in terms of the budget, whether or not you wanna say it's a slowdown of the anticipated budget or an outright budget hole. This is not going to be one of those, it's not going to be either one of those sessions. It's not going to be those ones where you're just doling out grants to local projects. So I'd like to start with, give me about a minute or so, what's going to be your philosophy for addressing what is going to be a unique budget situation because of the pandemic, and then we'll get into some more specifics. But just give me a philosophical answer on how you will be approaching the budget going into it. I'll start with you, Representative Rodriguez.
Well, just from a 30,000 foot level, I would say, let's start with no special projects, no fat on the budget, and whatever anyone gets in terms of special projects will be, just like a very big exception. But I think for the most part, special projects will just not be happening this year. And that's just unfortunate, because I know a lot of cities and, a lot of different organizations, get the annual money from the state of Florida. But I would say that would be the first place that I would look to reduce the budget and start tackling it.
And Representative Fernandez?
Yeah, look, I don't think we can look at this as just a budget cutting exercise. I think right now is an opportunity that's, frankly, it's an inflection point for Florida. We've got a lot of challenges that we need to meet in this next decade to keep our economy moving forward. So I think right now is a chance to invest so that we can grow. And yes, there will be some budget cutting, but I think I've talked about this before in numbers of other forums. We need to be capitalizing on what is a historically low borrowing environment, bringing resources forward to invest in resiliency, in mass transportation, in the kinds of projects that will ultimately help not only just stimulate our economy in the short term, but help us grow sustainably over the long term. I think that's the approach I'd bring to Tallahassee this session.
All right, let's ask a question that is going to hopefully be cut into a 30-second television commercial. Representative Fernandez, how open to raising taxes are you if the budget deficit continues?
Well, I think I've been a proponent of actually collecting revenues that were owed already. You know, the best example I can give you is collecting online sales tax receipts, which have gone by the boards. Prior to the pandemic, the estimate was more than $250 to $300 million a year in revenue that we were losing because we just hadn't modernized our tax statutes. It's probably double that given the shift we've seen in retail where people buying at home during the pandemic. So I think there's a way to capture revenues, existing revenues, not necessarily creating new taxes, but capturing existing revenues by modernizing our tax structure. That's where I would start.
And Representative Rodriguez, if we're in a hole, a couple $1 billion, and it's a choice between getting enough money for our schools and the hospitals and the jails, are you open to raising taxes at any level?
Peter, I think that the state of Florida should really look at leveling the playing field with online sales for sure. A lot of our brick and mortar establishments, are suffering because of the online competition, the fact that people don't pay taxes for online purchases. And I just think that's a matter of being fair and leveling the playing field. So I'm absolutely open to looking at that as an option.
I've got a question from a chamber member or someone watching in right now. A question from John. The Florida film and television production industry has been decimated over the last 5 years, and South Florida has been particularly impacted by that. If elected, will you support proposals to create new incentives for this industry? And no, Jose Oliva is not watching.
Who do you want to go first, Peter?
Representative Rodriguez, we'll go back, we'll work that way.
Well, that's great that you just said that, because I know that Speaker Oliva was very much opposed to this type of incentive. He doesn't, like in his own words, he doesn't like to pick winners and losers. So I think that Speaker Designate Sprowls might be open to it. And I think that President Designate Simpson would be open to it as well. I don't think we should, give everything away to a particular industry. I think that it's important, again, not to pick winners and losers, but at the same time, you have Georgia and other states that have taken all of that business away from us, where filmmakers are now, going to these states instead of ours because of these particular incentives. So I absolutely would love to have that business back in our state and create employment for people in the film industry. So I would definitely be willing to look at that.
Okay. Same question to you, Representative Fernandez. Are you open to incentives for the film and television industry, the entertainment industry?
Yeah, I'm not very concerned about what President Simpson or incoming Speaker Sprowls have to say about the issue, because I think it's pretty obvious to anyone who's looked at the impact of the film industry here in South Florida, what it can do in terms of paying jobs it would create. It pays jobs well above our median. I think the median pay in the film industry is north of about $65,000 per job created. I have seen firsthand when I worked at the city of Miami for a local mayor, the stimulus effect it had on the Coconut Grove economy when we had Bermudez filming out of the Coconut Grove Convention Center. It's something we should have never stopped doing because we get a huge ROI on that investment. And if you care about business, I think it's a softball incentive to lay out there because the return is so extraordinarily high and the jobs we are creating are so high paying.
All right. Especially for the crowd that's listening here, I'd love to get a minute from each of you on what is an idea to spur economic development at the state level that you'll be bringing to Tallahassee, whether it be a sponsored bill or working to push that in. If they elect you in Senate District 39, what is going to be your economic development proposal? Start with you, Representative Fernandez.
Thank you. I think one thing we absolutely need to do right now in the midst of this pandemic as we try to reopen our economy responsibly is make sure that we modernize our unemployment system so that we actually provide gig workers and people who do not have any sort of paid leave a paid benefit to stay home if they've been exposed or are sick. Why do I suggest that as a modernization of our system? Because we know that if we want our economy to flourish, it has to stay open. But people should not have to choose between putting a roof over their head and food on the table or going to work that particular day. Because if we don't provide them that benefit, they have an incentive not to report. And all that does is keep this cloud over our head for a longer period of time. That's one thing I'll propose in terms of modernizing our unemployment system, expand benefits to that subclass of folks, make it a pandemic benefit when we have a pandemic declared. And then secondly, again, as I said before, I think we need to invest for long-term growth. I want to make sure that we are investing in transit, making sure our FDOT dollars are not singularly used in South Florida to just expand and maintain roads, but to actually help expand mass transit and invest in the infrastructure that's going to help South Florida grow over the next 10 to 20 years, as opposed to just doing onesie-twosie projects here. We need to invest on a massive level to keep this market healthy.
All right, Representative Rodriguez, what's your out of the box or best proposal you'll be bringing to Tallahassee to spur economic development?
Well, I think one of the issues that a lot of Floridians face is housing and finding affordable housing, not just in South Florida, but throughout the state. And I think that when companies come to Florida, I don't believe in putting big restrictions on companies or big regulations, but in some way, having these companies include like employer-assisted housing or something that can help people get into Florida with a way that they can afford where they're living, and then they can transition into home ownership. I think one of the things that we need desperately is for people to get out of the rental cycle and get into home ownership so that they can start building wealth. So one of my focuses will definitely be increasing access to home ownership.
That brings up a question I've got from a viewer. Her name rhymes with Fanatera Smores, and she's got a question, I think, about property insurance. I'm told by this person that property insurance is a major issue in Senate District 39. And so talking about home insurance, I know Senator Bermudez up by my neck of the woods says that the property insurance issue is a ticking time bomb. So we'll start with you, Representative Rodriguez, back at it. Give me a sense of your understanding of the property insurance issue and what you'll work to do to solve it in Tallahassee.
I think one of the things that we should do is require insurance companies to give incentives to people who invest in hardening their properties. I know that already exists, but I don't think it goes far enough. I think people who actually take the time and spend the money, the resources to put new roofs, to put impact windows, and all of these different things to make their properties more resilient and sustainable should definitely get bigger breaks than what they're currently receiving. So I think just giving incentives to people to do these things that will help, and that the insurance company keep their commitment to bring their rates down for the people who follow through on those things.
Representative Fernandez, same question.
Yeah, look, it's a huge drag on the economy, what's happening with property insurance and windstorm insurance. Throughout the Keys in particular, people in the Keys are paying more in windstorm insurance and property insurance, flood insurance, than they pay in annual taxes to all the taxing jurisdictions. So that makes the home ownership goal of my colleague fairly unattainable until we address this issue. Windstorm coverage is disappearing. I've lost mine from a private provider here in the last few months. I think the state, beyond incentives, which we've been providing for years and really have made no difference in the marketplace, one of the biggest problems we have is that reinsurers are not reinsuring risk in Florida. And so I think that begs the question, should the state serve as a reinsurer to private companies to help offset some of that risk, provide them the ability to kind of write policies in the private market in Florida? That's something I will be willing to consider and look forward to working with our insurance professionals to try to get something on that scale done that would actually help, if not reduce rates, keep rates from increasing further.
So you'd want to go with Citizens, and then you'd want to create a separate entity?
I don't know that Citizens is getting it done. I mean, Citizens is basically becoming the insurer of last resort. Citizens has got to go out there and then get its own reinsurance to mitigate that risk. I think Citizens might be more effective in attracting new insurers to the marketplace by actually serving as a reinsurance issuer for some of the private companies that are leaving the marketplace. But again, it's an issue that I think requires something by way of a bolder stroke than just incentives, as my opponent has offered.
All right, real quick, how are you voting on the minimum wage amendment, Representative Fernandez?
I'm voting for it. I think we've got a huge problem, not just at the lowest income levels, but across all incomes here in South Florida. People today earn less than they did in 1970 as a household.
These are rapid fire ones. Representative Rodriguez. No, it's okay. Representative Rodriguez, how are you voting on the minimum wage amendment?
I'm voting no.
Okay. you get to Tallahassee, they give you the form. What is the top committee you're going to ask to be on, Representative Rodriguez?
Healthcare.
And Representative Fernandez?
Natural resources and transportation.
Okay. We're going to go to a chamber. This is a question from I hate saying the crowd because I don't even know who's watching at this point, but the crowd, the virtual crowd that's out there. There have been issues such as the challenge to MDX in Miami, which the chamber and others see as not only a bad idea in unnecessarily disrupting the system that's working extremely well, but is also an attack on our home rule in Miami. How do you stand on the issue, Representative Rodriguez?
Well, I think that having local control of our own toll dollars is the way to go. I also, just for the record, I don't know if you're going to bring this up, but I do support the idea of the express lanes and giving people a choice. If they want to go and pay the toll and get there a little faster, they can. If they would rather go in the free lane, they can go down the free lane. And I'm referring specifically to the Palmetto Expressway.
Same question to you, Representative Fernandez.
Yeah, well, my opponent's response belies her vote, which she voted to actually overhaul MDX. And the only thing that accomplished was to raise the operating costs for the agency and rates for consumers. And so I think absolutely local control is essential. We'll agree with her on that comment. But we need to think about the inequity that exists in the current scheme. People who earn the least and have to drive the farthest because they can't afford housing in the urban core pay the most in tolls. And we need to work on righting that situation.
Okay, I didn't tell my friends at the chamber this. This is the hard, tough questions that I thought of on the way over back from getting my haircut today. Representative Fernandez, you were endorsed by the Miami Herald, I believe today, I think, or at least it looked like it popped today.
A couple days ago, yes. Yeah.
Okay, I imagine you're excited for that. I think one of they were complimentary to both of you, but the difference that they said was they cited your activism on social justice issues. So I'm going to ask, here's the tough question. You have said publicly that you support cutting police funding.
I have not said that. That is a distortion by my opponent.
And I'll let you answer. Just
Yeah,
do
sorry.
you support the Black Lives Matter defund the police movement?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat the last part of the question?
Do you support the Black Lives Matter defund the police movement?
I don't think the two things are equivalent, so I reject the premise of your question. What I will say, as I've said before, first, it's important to note for everyone on the call, I am actually supported and endorsed by a police union. I don't think police unions would be supporting candidates who are calling for defunding the police. Secondly, it's an absurd question to be asking someone to running for the state senate because we will never say grace over a police budget. So it has nothing to do with a job we're running to discharge. And thirdly, and most importantly, with respect to our records on the issue, I have no record of ever calling for nor actually acting to defund the police. My opponent cannot say that. In her 8 years on the Doral City Council, she voted 4 times to cut the budget of the police department in 1 year by more than $4 million, which resulted in an increase in crime by 7.5% the following year. Those are the facts. That's my position. I believe in Black Lives Matter. I believe that we need to do more to allow people to fully live and have access to opportunity. And I think that African Americans in our community have, unfortunately, not achieved the same success because of structural racism that exists in parts of our community, parts of our institutions, private and public. And I think we need to make sure that we work very hard to rectify those inequities if we want to have a thriving democracy. Because unfortunately, if we all are not doing well, if we all do not feel that we have an ownership stake in the society, our society is the poorer for it.
All right, I want to ask Representative Rodriguez my tough question. This was suggested to me from a neutral.
Peter, and I'm sorry to interrupt you. Can I at least respond to the allegations?
I would love to get into this discussion because, but I'm going to warn you that I've got. All right, we're going to go down this road we'll go down this road for 1 minute.
Just for this issue, because my opponent said that I voted to cut the police funding for the city of Doral when I was a councilwoman. And the truth is that from year to year, over the 8 years that I served in my city, the budget did fluctuate up and down several times. And the only reason that happened is because on certain years we would purchase equipment like police cars and other expensive equipment. And then the following year, there was no need to do that. And so the years following the years where we would spend a lot, it would appear that we were defunding, but in reality, we just weren't making the big expenses that we had made the prior year. So that's why he's saying that. But
Peter,
wanted
that's
to
not
clarify.
accurate.
Yeah, it is accurate.
Hold on.
30 seconds.
Don't make me turn into Kristen Welker. With
No, it is accurate. Thank you.
A 10-second rebuttal.
I'm going to give you 15 seconds to respond, but then I'm going to ask you a tough question because you're going to get that 15 seconds. Go ahead.
Sure, fair enough. So that is true. Her last part of her comment, 1 year they did defund because they reduced capital expenditures, but they reduced the number of sworn officer positions. And in 2016, she actually voted against increasing the police budget and increasing the number of sworn officers, and crime went up in Doral. Those are facts. Look at the Doral budget.
Straight up question, Representative Fernandez, one word answer here. Do you denounce socialism?
Absolutely.
All right, here's your tough question for Representative Rodriguez. So somebody sent me some mailers that you're sending out, and and you can't see them, but you probably have seen them. The ones that you send to Monroe County say Anna Maria. They do not say your last name. So I have to ask, why have you removed your last name from all of the signage and branding that you run in the Florida Keys?
So we thought of doing something that was very relatable in the Keys, which is she's one of us. Because what happens is people who run in Monroe County who are not from Monroe County are sometimes seen as outsiders. And I'm 43 years old. I was born and raised in Miami, but have spent many, many weekends and vacations and time actually helping after Hurricane Irma. I went down on multiple occasions to help out. And I wanted people from Monroe County to know that even though I don't live in Monroe County, I wanted them to feel that even though I'm from the mainland, that I was still one of them, and that they could always see me, and hear from me and talk to me anytime they needed me. So that was the thought process behind she's one of us. And the reason we didn't include the last name, we just thought, my first and middle name were fine, and it just made it more relatable. That was it. Nothing to do with me being Hispanic or not. I don't know. I don't know if you were going there, but that's
Representative Fernandez, you're smiling so much. People are going to think that you texted me that question. So you got to stop. You got to stop smirking as much when I ask the tough questions like that. All right, let's dive back into policy before I don't want to not be invited back. Miami and South Florida is built out. We don't need any more roads, but FDOT, Florida Department of Transportation, rules state that dollars have to go to build roads. How would you push to get our funding to be more flexible to allow us to invest in transit solutions? I know the word transit, Representative Fernandez is just, chomping at the bit. I'll start with you and then we'll get Representative Rodriguez. Give me a minute on that.
Sure, thanks. As many of the chamber know, we've been talking about this issue together for a long time. In Miami-Dade, we've been too wholly fixated on the half penny proceeds as the silver bullet solution. But, the truth is that FDOT spends $750 million every year in our district, mostly on roadway expansion and maintenance. And so we need to spend more of those dollars to support our ambitions in actually building out the mass transit corridors under the SMART plan. And that's something I've been working on and will continue to work on, making sure that within the district and then in the FDOT's larger budget, more dollars are required to be spent on mass transit projects that will have a significant benefit for Monroe and Dade counties.
Representative Rodriguez?
Well, there's that saying, if you build it, they will come. And many years ago in South Florida, we built something called the Metro Rail. And we built that with an eye towards the future, thinking that we were going to promote mass transit and people getting away from cars and using more mass transit. And actually, that did not happen. It was not used to the extent that it was planned that it would be used. I think in particular in South Florida, for as much as I support mass transit and I would like more people to use it, for whatever reason, South Florida has continued to be a vehicle-oriented area where if you don't have a vehicle or if you don't use an Uber or Lyft, you really can't get around town. So yes, I would like to have flexibility in using those funds for mass transit. But the truth of the matter is that right now and for the foreseeable future, people are going to continue using our expressways and our roadways to get around.
Peter, if I could just jump in really quickly on that.
Give me 15 seconds.
You know, I think the reason it hasn't happened is because we have not had the complementary land use requirements to actually leverage that investment. And that's what the failure of Metro has been. It's not been the system. It's been our failure to actually build around the system and have policies that allow for the density required to support the system. And that's something I'll be focused on as well in Tallahassee.
All right, speaking of focus, I know with the chamber, it's not just the large groups, it's usually coalitions of smaller businesses. What would you bring in terms of legislation and recommendation that's really going to help benefit small businesses? You know, I remember the corporate tax cuts being such a big part of last session. Obviously, the mom and pop places, they're not benefiting from the corporate tax cuts. And I'm not even saying that those are bad or good. So Representative Rodriguez, what is a piece of legislation that you're going to be working on that will help small businesses rebound, recover, prosper in this pandemic?
Well, I can tell you it's something I've been working on professionally, because I think you may know I work with the Board of Realtors here in Miami. And one of the things that I advocate for and that I've supported is a reduction in the business rent tax. The state of Florida is one of the few states in the United States that still, actually no, I think we're the only one left at this point. I think the other ones got rid of it already. We still charge a business rent tax for businesses, for leases on businesses. So I would continue supporting reducing and eventually eliminating that outdated tax. That does create an additional cost burden to small businesses in the state of Florida.
Representative Fernandez, same question.
Peter, she and I are on the same page, except that she has a record for voting against reducing the business rent tax in the legislature. Specifically, when we had a choice of returning that $550 million to the largest corporations that did not need the relief before this pandemic, she voted against an amendment that I proffered on the floor to actually direct those dollars to reducing by 50% the business rent tax, which would have been actually very meaningful relief for our small businesses. So while the rhetoric is good, the actions belie the rhetoric.
All right, so this is something I've written about impacting, and something that the Herald, I think, just wrote about over the last week. And one of the big issues is this group, and I don't know if all the chamber members are going to know about it, it's forward majority. They basically are the default Democratic Party at this point. And so they have been spending millions across the state, putting out mail pieces, talking about an issue, telling voters that Republican state legislators voted to strip pre-existing condition protection. I want to ask Representative Rodriguez, all those mailers that are going out, all the TV that has been going on, is that accurate? That charge of forward majority and the Democrats have been making that you voted to strip out pre-existing conditions?
No, Peter, that is not accurate. That is not accurate. You know, we would never do anything to hurt people with pre-existing conditions. In fact, you know, I think we've gone out of our way to protect people with those circumstances. So no, that is actually completely false.
Representative Fernandez, I know they're not your ads. I know that you've actually run you know, relatively, this has been it is definitely not Senate District 9. But what do you say about those ads? Will you denounce?
Peter, I just very quickly, I think just to clarify, forward majority is not supporting any Senate candidates. And so they're not spending dollars in Senate races. I know because as a member of the House caucus, we had conversations before the cycle about cooperating with them to try to pick up some House seats. So I know they've not directed any attacks of that nature to my opponent. I just want to clarify that for everyone. Yeah. Now I will say, I do think that they are factually, you know, questionable. And the truth is my opponent has attacked me for that very same vote in a mailer that went out from the Republican Party saying that I voted against protecting people's rights to protections for for people who have pre-existing conditions. So I've been the victim in this race of that same attack from my opponent and the Republican Senatorial Committee. And I think it's a false attack. I believe it's probably related to one of the many House healthcare reform bills that she and I both voted for in our first session in Tallahassee.
Representative Rodriguez, do you want 15 seconds or are you good?
No, I'm good, thanks.
How non-Trumpian of you to do that. Got a question from the audience. Over the last several years, there have been constant attacks on extremely important programs in the eyes of the business community. The first is Enterprise Florida, which is our state's economic development arm. The second is Visit Florida, which is our state marketing arm. Tourism in Miami is critical to the economy of our area as well as the state. Would you not only support these two state programs, but help to defend their existence? And a reminder, Jose Oliva, he's gone. I mean, he's not watching this. I promise you, he's not watching today's panel. He reads everything I write, but he won't watch it. I'll start with you, Representative Rodriguez.
So I think these organizations are absolutely worthy of our support. But I think the issue that some previous leaders may have had with these is the accountability aspect. And I think that that's important. If you're going to spend that much money or put that much money into a department in an organization and that's going to be marketing the state of Florida abroad, you're going to want to have more accountability than I think they must have had in the past. Now, I also support the idea of perhaps spending those dollars a little more at a more granular level. I think organizations like the Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce, or actually Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau and others are more apt and nimble to go out and go to different events or around the world and promote our state and our region. I'm
still here. I'm just,
you are.
When you're homeschooling and running a business and the FedEx guy is here and the UPS guy, Representative Fernandez, same question. I know they've pared the budget down so much on Visit Florida. What will you be doing to restore some of the vitality to Enterprise Florida and Visit Florida?
Look, I think it starts with recognizing their value, and their value is pretty obvious. I mean, Santiago Corrada from your neck of the woods, Peter, is a friend. We've talked about how critical these dollars are to the Tampa Hillsborough area to kind of draw larger events. They're the air cover that supports the ground cover provided by our local visitor bureaus. Without that air cover, their marketing efforts would be markedly less successful. So I'm a big proponent of both entities. I think there's been great accountability. I think the audits the state has generated in terms of the ROI that they provide more than justifying their continued existence. I don't understand my opponent's concern about accountability. I think there's very good accountability within the legislature, within the leadership of the organizations. And from an Enterprise Florida perspective, the goals are very targeted. My only concern about accountability with respect to Enterprise Florida and business development recruitment was the slush fund that we created a few years ago and gave Governor Scott just a unanimous control over. That certainly seemed to be an unaccountable pot of money that was created that departs from the past practice. That I would not be supportive of, but I think the traditional programs I certainly support and will continue to advocate for their inclusion in future budgets.
If it was Governor Nikki Fried, would you be supportive of it?
No, I think we need to always have a framework around where we're going to invest in business development, business recruitment. And I think a blank check for anybody is a bad thing. That's why I've been an opponent of vouchers, because we've given those institutions blank checks with no academic accountability, just to draw a parallel.
Rapid fire question, Representative Fernandez, what is one main issue you do not agree with your caucus leader, Gary Farmer?
Well, I think, we need to have a business-friendlier approach when it comes to folks working in the state. We have a reputation as a caucus for being far too differential to the trial bar. I think I've shown myself to be someone who has put a business-friendly face on the House caucus and want to make sure that we're working with our business communities I have here at the local level in Tallahassee to advance a balanced agenda for Florida.
You know, if you're talking to the chamber, all you have to do is dog the trial bar and you're going to get all the Facebook likes. Representative Rodriguez, give me an example of where you're going to be independent from Senate President Wilton Simpson.
Well, I'll give you an example of something that I went against leadership in the last session, or was it the session before? I don't remember. It was a bill that was trying to basically deregulate the three-tier system, which is the alcohol distribution in the state of Florida. And I defended the beer distributors because I think that they have invested a tremendous amount of money in their infrastructure for their type of business. And they generate a lot of jobs, especially in my House district where I currently represent. And so that prompted me to vote against leadership. So I've done it in the past. It's something that I'm not afraid to do. And, you just got to be your own person. So.
Okay, I've got one final question. I think I'm going to save to the end. We're at 1:50. I think I'm going to try and get this wrapped up in the next 6 minutes. But Representative Rodriguez, Representative Fernandez, I want you to ask each other a question, and then the person will get 30 seconds to respond. Representative Rodriguez, what's one question you want to ask Representative Fernandez?
What did you have for breakfast?
This is going to be an interesting one. I was down at South Dade with Leader McGee, who's running for a county commission seat here, and he brought out a ice cream truck. So I had an ice cream cookie, chocolate chip cookie sandwich for breakfast.
It's not going as I planned. This is
I am so jealous right now.
Representative Fernandez, what's a question you would like to ask Representative Rodriguez?
So I one of the things I admire about my colleague is that she's a working mom with 2 young kids, and I am married to a very accomplished woman in her own right, and so I just want to ask her how she manages to find the time to balance all these different facets of her life. What's the secret? What's the secret?
Okay,
I want to learn.
well, so your wife's name is Anna Maria, like me, so that's awesome.
To Enzo.
Oh yeah, that's right. I think having a supportive spouse is really the secret of my success. My husband is the man behind the scenes that, takes the kids to school, picks them up, makes sure all the trains are running. And I think Javier is in the same category. He has a great spouse that supports him. So I think either one of us, if you get either one of us in the Senate, we'll have people at home that help us with our home lives and make sure all the trains run on time at home. So.
All right. I just wanted, for the record, I tried to get, a little moment there, but I guess that didn't work. Okay. This may be our last question. We may do a little rapid fire at the end. Over the past couple of years, relationships between Miami state and county leaders has been a flashpoint. However, Miami-Dade will have a new mayor and many new commissioners. What will you do as a senator to improve this relationship between state and county government? Representative Rodriguez.
Well, I think that, some of us that come from local government already, have the previous relationships and we can, certainly cross those bridges when we need to. I always welcomed commissioners to my office in the last couple of years as a legislator. And I think my colleagues need to have the same mindset is, we all need to be pulling in the same direction, not against each other. And I think that with either my opponent or myself, I think we're all going to be pulling in the same direction towards Miami-Dade, towards the South, not helping. We're all for Florida. We all love our state. But the truth is we represent South Florida. So we want to make sure we have the best interests of our community at the forefront.
Representative Fernandez.
Yeah, look, Peter, in my short term in the House, what I've done is whatever agenda I'm trying to advance in Tallahassee is one that's rooted in the priorities of our local community, and so that's how I'll continue to work. We'll whatever ideas we have, we'll refine them jointly with our local partners at the municipal and county level. I've got great relationships with certainly both candidates at the mayor that are running for mayor, many of the folks running for county commissioners. So we can have a seamless, integrated kind of shared agenda going to Tallahassee. I think in stark departure that we've had in the past. And I think it's just born with the commitment to want to work together to shape that agenda, not just dictate to our local community.
All right, we've got a couple more minutes here. I want to ask a tricky political question. When will we know Florida's, how Florida voted in the presidential election? Polls close at 7 p.m. Panhandle closes at 8 p.m. yesterday. Representative Fernandez, when will we know?
I think 11 p.m. on election night. It's my guess.
Representative Rodriguez?
I agree. I think we'll know before midnight who the winner is.
Okay. I think I'm going to try and end this just a couple minutes early. I think we've had, 15 or so, maybe 20 different questions. I'm going to say thank you to both Representative Fernandez and Rodriguez for answering the questions directly. And I think the chamber will be in good hands no matter what, given the answers that we've heard today. And I just want to thank everybody for letting the St. Pete guy, be with you again.
Peter, thanks for moderating. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks for moderating. Thanks for being such a great announcer of what all things political in the state of Florida, because we all learned from that. I want to thank both Representative Fernandez and Representative Rodriguez from being with us. One last question, if I can sneak it in, which is, we like to have our fly-ins. What do you think? Are we going to have a fly-in this year? Is that going to be allowed? Representative Rodriguez says yes.
I say hopefully, fingers crossed. Hopefully we'll keep this thing under control.
All right. Okay. Well, we're there with you. For all those who are with us today, thank you very much for being a part of this. Please remember that although we're in phase 3 and things are opened up, it's our responsibility to keep our economy going, to keep the environment safe. So please continue to social distance and mask up Miami. Thanks again for joining us. Thanks to our representatives. Good luck to both of you. And again, if for the loser, I hope you'll get back into the race and count on us for our support. Thanks again. We'll see you next time. Vote.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you.